What are you doing with your hands, Chuck?
I don't know. As soon
Yeah.
as I hear recording, I get scared and nervous.
I
More
just want you
comfortable,
to
but
know I'm
yeah,
not
we're
touching
recording.
myself.
Hands and eyes up here.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, welcome to another bonus episode of Not a Strong Start. So we did one of these episodes covering Phase 4 movies and kind of, discussing some of the things that we enjoyed and didn't enjoy. Also giving our follower champion, declaring that, and our overall NASS ranking. So we're going to do the same thing this time, but now we're going to be covering the TV shows of Phase 4, just in time before Phase 5 starts later this month. Now, first of all, I got a question for you guys. What were some of your initial thoughts regarding these TV shows coming in and supposedly, being incorporated within the MCU and connected to everything? When you first heard all that, what was your guys' initial thoughts?
I think I was excited. I was super excited because everything between or from phase 1 to phase 3 was really good. Like even the misses were really good. And so I was pumped. I was like, cool, we're getting Loki, we're getting all this. And there was so much like fan theory and like who's coming out, who's this dude. Like we're getting mutants, we're getting, like I was super pumped. To say I was disappointed later would be an understatement.
And we will get into that. What about you, George? What was your initial thoughts when you first heard the slate being put out there for us?
I think for me, equal to Chuck, I was very excited, as intrigued with the prospect of what could happen from this. Especially like, remember when Agents of Shield first came out, and that whole was supposed to have that whole idea of like what happens in the movies continues on in this TV show, and it'll kind of like fix any little missing plot holes or little connective tissues that you needed to continue on to the next storyline or next beat. So I thought this was another kind of chance to get that done right. So I was very excited for all that stuff. Plus, there was a lot of promise of something new and different than what we're probably used to with the cinematic universe, with this TV universe.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't want to repeat the word excited again, but I was excited when I
Yeah.
first heard about it. I felt that this was a great opportunity to build a backstory and then also take some lesser characters that maybe don't get the attention in the movies and kind of build them up before their movies come out or before they come out in other movies. And this just a perfect opportunity to fill all that in and make all these other non A-list characters shine and make them important so that we do care about them. So that was the thing I was looking forward to the most when it came to the initial slate and the possibilities of what this might bring. Now, with that being said, once Phase 4 finished and you made it through all of them, what was your guys' favorite story out of all of the series?
Go ahead, George.
For me, I think it has to be WandaVision still, even though it was the first one and it probably had the deepest impact. But even as a retrospect of looking through everything, I think that it had the overall, like we kind of talked about it with the movies last episode. She had the most growth in that series out of everybody. There was so much growth, not just for the character, but for Elizabeth Olsen as an actress. We got to see her show that she can be funny and be quirky and at the same time still go through all those mental stresses that she's dealing with not having a family, not having the one that she loved, and kind of being like this outcast Avenger with no one on her side.
Yeah. What was your question again?
What series had your favorite story?
Oh, my favorite story. Um, Probably WandaVision, and I think it's only I didn't enjoy that show the most, but it was the best story, especially because it kind of directly led into the movies, like to Doctor Strange. So that's why I liked it, because I felt like, and it wasn't until later. So I mean, yes, I like, but it wasn't until later so I realized, okay, that's the one, because I felt like it was worth me watching because it led into it. There was like a payoff to watching the show, where some of the other ones like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like we didn't really get anything yet other than Julia Louis Dreyfus. Her character kind of came out in some movies, but that's the reason why though. Yeah, the story, but also because it led into to the movies. So
Yeah, I mean, One Division was also my choice for this one. Uh, just the way they portrayed the character and her like dissociation like from reality, and basically everything that her character has been through in the entire like MCU to that point, it connected to all of that. We finally saw the mental consequences that came upon her from everything that we've seen. So, like you said, Chuck, it was the first one. It connected directly to a movie that came out in phase four, but it also connected to everything in the past. And I felt they did a good job with that.
mm.
So that story for me was my favorite. Now that was favorite story. I also wanted to get into, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, Chuck, because you said this wasn't your favorite, even though it was your favorite story. But what was the most entertaining series for you? And we'll start off with you, Chuck.
Falcon and Winter Soldier. Um, it just it was action, and I love Bucky Barnes. I'm kind of on Sam Wilson, but I always loved Bucky, and so I felt like with everything going on with these shows, it was kind of a Avenger level type that was in the show, where kind of like we had She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, some of these other shows where I was like, characters I didn't really care about, which is why I liked WandaVision because she was an Avenger, she was in all the movies, and then her and Vision. So you brought them over to TV, and it was more, and I'm like, cool. But for me, like I said, like one of my favorite characters in general, anyway, was Bucky, the Winter Soldier. So to see him kind of every week doing his thing and get into like his character more, I liked. Plus, like I said, it was an action show, so I like action.
It gave you the buddy cop, like
Yeah,
Yeah.
action movie concept,
yeah, and it was
which
fun.
is,
It was kind of funny,
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah, they have good chemistry together. What about you, George? What was your most entertaining series?
Uh, when you had proposed this question, I was surprised by what first came to mind when I thought of this, and it ended up being Hawkeye. I didn't think
Okay.
Hawkeye would be the one to rise to that area, but I thought about it. It's like it was such a fun watch, and I didn't anticipate that. I think that Haley Steinfeld actually did a really great job as like the soon to be new Hawkeye. I also love that they brought back Yelena. I think she was the best part of the Black Widow movie. Honestly, like if I'm gonna watch the movie again, it's because of her, and she brought a great levity to this show. Plus, I think they did a great job of just showing Hawkeye's story of the fact of like he's like this soldier who's dealing with PTSD, and he's a broken man who's just trying to like live his life while still fixing the world the best he can. The best way I looked at this series was like Home Alone and Die Hard and just Christmas wholesomeness, you know. And I loved every bit of it. I'm going to probably watch it again next Christmas.
Yeah, that one actually it surprised me. I enjoyed it more than I thought I was gonna enjoy, and I
Yeah,
think fun is a good descriptor for it. And I really enjoyed the fact that it showed us the consequences of his time as Ronin, and again, kind of
yeah,
connecting back to that because he did it, then he wasn't Ronin, but it was like, okay, what happens now due to that? So I think that was
Right.
a strong part of that. For me, I had to go with Loki. I really enjoy it. I mean, first of all, Tom Hiddleston, he owns that character. He is entertaining in every MCU movie he's been part of as Loki. This is also a series where multiple characters had their time to shine besides Loki. In this series, and then I was just intrigued of the way they use this series to try to expand the MCU and getting into other timelines and all of that aspect. So kind of making it bigger. So it made me excited for the prospects in the future of the MCU due to this opening it up, especially with the way it ended. All right, great choices for that one. Now, we touched on favorite story, most entertaining, but what was the biggest surprise? There was 8 different series in this. What was the one that surprised you the most? And we'll start with you on this one, George.
You know, I wrote down for my answer "what if" on this just because I didn't think they were gonna make it as grand as they did. But now as I'm saying it, I think it was actually She-Hulk. I think She-Hulk was my biggest surprise. And not necessarily for a good or a bad reason. I'm just surprised that they actually went as hardcore with breaking the fourth wall as they did. I don't think any of us expected it to go as far as it did with that last episode. Like it was
They
full
went
on
bold.
comic book level. You know, she literally broke through her to this TV screen and went to another area. You know, it's like, oh wow, they're going for it. This is Deadpool level, just not giving a crap about what we're gonna do next kind of storytelling at this point. And I never thought that we would ever go that far in a comic book movie of any sort. So that was the biggest surprise, I think, for me out of all of these series.
I can't say anyone expected that ending to go the way it went at all. What about you, Joe? What was your biggest Phase 4 surprise?
Honestly, and it's not a good one, but sorry, George, it's Moon Knight. I wanted to like it so much, and I was just surprised how little of Moon Knight we had in it. And that was a big shock to me because I was like, cool, Moon Knight. I like Moon Knight. I've read a few things. I love Oscar Isaac. The visuals, seeing it, like I said, Oscar Isaac, the suit, that's what pumped me up. It wasn't the few stories that I read because I thought, oh, he's cool. He's all right, you know? But it was like this expectation of how awesome it was going to be. It's like Batman, but in Marvel, and he's going to kick ass, and it's Oscar Isaac, and it's going to be awesome. And the suit looks amazing. I was sold on the suit. I think I bought like a statue and a toy just based on the suit that of a show I never even watched. And through the first, like, I don't know how many episodes, say there was 8, through the first 7 episodes, he was literally in the show for like 10 minutes, maybe. And that to me was a surprise. I was like, wow, like episode where he wasn't even in it. And I was just like, wow. Like I wanted to see that. I wanted to see him in the suit. I wanted to see him fighting all the time. Like that's what I wanted to watch. I wanted to see that, and I didn't. And that was disappointing.
He doesn't even save the day. He's not even the hero of his own story.
Yeah, I know. I know.
I agree with you 100% here. It's not a category here, but that would have been my most disappointing series. It has so much potential and it got so Disney-fied at the end that by the end of the series, there was only one episode that I was like, ooh, this was a good
Yeah.
episode. And that was strictly on the back of Oscar Isaac's
Oscar Isaac.
acting in that episode, not anything else on it. So yeah. For me, the biggest surprise, and I kind of hinted at this earlier, was Hawkeye. Besides some elements at the end, I was surprised how much fun I had with it and how entertained I was with the series. I think Haley did a great job in it, and her chemistry with both Renner and Florence was really good. Like when they would get paired off, it was always entertaining, their banter and
Yeah.
the way they interacted with each other. So that was my biggest surprise. With that one.
Yeah, I forgot how much I liked that show actually. I kind of forgot about it to be honest, because it wasn't my top thing, but it was, across the board like number 2 for like everything. Like I love Jeremy Renner, Haley Steinfeld was awesome, Florence Pugh, hot. She was funny. That scene where they meet, she's in her apartment and
Yeah.
they make the soup or I don't know, something
It was
like
mac and cheese. She makes the mac and cheese.
There you
I think she
go.
put like sriracha in it or something.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
charismatic, like Florence Pugh, like she was hilarious. She was so good. So I look forward to seeing her more. And Black Widow sucked, but yeah, she was the best part of that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the end of that, I wanted to see Haley and Florence like team up. Like, give me a
Yeah.
series with
And
just
Yeah.
like
like them
kids,
two, like going at it.
did you say
Uh,
you wanted to see them go at it?
no, team up.
Yeah, you have to
Oh,
Team
fight
up.
crime as crime fighters.
right. No, I know. That's what
Stopping the
So,
bad guy.
that's totally what I was thinking. I want to be the bad
yeah.
guy.
Speaking of performance, what was you guys' standout performance out of Phase 4? You know, what actor or actress just kind of blew it out of the water for you? And we'll start with you, Chuck.
It's a very, very contradicting like response for me right now, but I have to say it was Oscar Isaac, but not as Moon Knight, as all three. I mean, well, two for the most part of his characters. Like he had the best acting, the best performances, and I think it was what episode you're talking about, the second of the last episode or the last season. You know what I mean? Yeah.
The one in the
Yeah.
asylum.
Yeah.
Yes. I know it's a TV show, but it was Oscar worthy. No pun intended. Like it was amazing. His acting was amazing. Like I got like teary eyed, and to me his performance as what's his name, Mark, and what's the other one? Um, anyways, the other guy
it
that
doesn't
he
matter.
plays, he played both those roles
Yeah.
perfectly. So
Yeah. If
come
you
on,
guys
George.
remember the name, put it down in the comments and remind us what the name
Yeah.
is here.
I'll probably put it in the comments when I do this video.
For me, it was Elizabeth Olsen.
I knew you were gonna say it too.
Yeah, it had to be. I mean, one, besides the fact, and I mentioned this when it came to the movie episode with Doctor Strange movie, her pain was so believable, and the trauma was so believable. But besides that, by the end of the series, I thought back and I was like, the way this show was formatted, she basically had to change up her acting style every episode to fit a new era in there, and she fit in like perfectly with whatever sitcom or anything that she was on for that episode. So it was like 5 different roles all within one series that she played, and she was good in all of them. So like I had to give her flowers for that. What about you, George?
Stephen Grant.
Stephen
Yes,
Grant.
that's the other guy.
Steven, yeah.
Yeah,
By the end of this, we'll get the third guy too.
Yeah. Definitely they said his name like half a second. Not gonna remember his name.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to say I did have Elizabeth at first for that one also, but I had a backup just in case you picked her because I didn't want to just, keep on like, she's amazing. We know she's great. But I do have to add, like, as someone who grew up watching all those old TV shows, that everything that was homaging in that series, I connected to it all. Like I felt that it's like I watched like Ozzie and Harriet and I Love Lucy growing up, and then all the other shows that they kept on noting on. I thought they nailed it every single time. But the stand-up performance for me was actually a Wyatt Russell as playing U.S. agent.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. I like that.
because and this is why I picked it, because you guys, you're right. Oscar Isaac killed it. Elizabeth Olsen kills it. But they're also actors that we know are great actors. Like we almost expect them to do amazing. If they did bad, that would be the surprise.
Yeah.
For me, like Wyatt Russell's still kind of coming up in his acting game, and then being a legacy actor, you almost don't expect too much from them. And I think that he's growing into something amazing right now. I didn't anticipate him being so stand out amongst people who are already heavy hitters. Daniel Bruhl freaking kills it in everything he does. You got freaking Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan, who were dynamite in their roles. And to be able to stand out amongst all of them, I thought was very impressive. Plus, I believed his struggle as like this soldier. Like he was a super soldier without having the serum in America's eyes. And how do you live up to that? That kind of stature when you don't have everything it takes necessarily.
You don't.
Yeah, that's what that showed.
Yeah.
I can't disagree with you on that. I feel he got me to be invested in his character, and I cared more of his character's journey than I did about the villains of the show and that group. Honestly, I didn't care about them at all. They didn't grab my attention. He did, and I wanted to see what happens with him. So I am glad that we're going to get more of him in the future. So that's definitely a good choice.
Yeah. Shout out to Daniel Bruhl, by the way. Honorable mention. He was so yeah.
That little
He was,
dance.
he was so he was so good. Like now that I think about it, like he might have been my favorite part of the show, which he was pretty good.
Some of the series actually improved upon some of the villains and characters that we had from the other movies. That's just something I was actually going to note on the What If thing, is that like shows like What If, this show, it took villains like Killmonger, freaking Baron Zemo, Ultron. They weren't that great in their films, and granted, I know people love Killmonger, but his plan wasn't that solid. If you really look at everything, I can't side with this guy. He is a bad guy. With these shows, it truly showed how smart they are and how villainous they could be,
Yeah.
and that the fact they could execute plans that would decimate all these heroes.
Yeah.
I didn't think we got that in the movies the way we did it in the TV shows.
Yeah, and I heard Michael B. Jordan say that if he gave Killmonger some prep time, he probably could have took out Thanos.
Was he Batman?
I know, right?
Yeah. No, I do agree with what you're saying, George. I don't agree with the Killmonger part. I actually enjoyed him as a villain, and I felt he was a gray area villain that you can understand why he's doing what it is that he's doing. But yeah, with Ultron and Zemo, they were just backdrop, pretty much in their movies. They were wasted. Even though Ultron was the big, bad in his movie, I didn't care about him.
It
I
didn't feel
was
like
more
an age of
interested.
Ultron. It was just like an island of Ultron.
Yeah.
It was like a couple of days of Ultron.
Yeah.
Yeah, wasted really good voice acting. Now, with that being said, we've been focusing mostly on like the positive, but what was everyone's least favorite series? And in your opinion, what went wrong to make it so bad? We'll start with you on this one, Chuck.
I gotta go with She-Hulk. Even though I only saw a few episodes, like, and just aesthetically right off the bat, the CGI was so bad. Like, I could never really like get invested. Or, I mean, I know these are all comic book characters and superhero fictional, like, but still, like, I just couldn't believe that was a real person or whatever. I like Thanos. I thought he looked good, right? Like he just. I get it. It's a movie budget. I understand that, but I just couldn't get into it. Just looked too fake to me, And I also feel like I don't want to like bash it. I just feel like I wasn't the target audience for that. But to see her, and I did a little short clip on it. When I saw her like twerking, I'm like, where have we gone?
Like,
You know, like is this the
lost
same
me.
company that got it? That the same studio that brought us,
uh,
the Winter Soldier, and now we have She-Hulk, this bad like Shrek looking CGI, like that. Actually, that's better. Anyways, twerking, and I was just like, what's going on? Where are we going? Where are we going? Where are we headed? Can't be good. Can't be far. So to me, that was it for me.
And then I'll go next on this one because that is also my choice. It was She-Hulk. Uh, I
you knew I
do
didn't pick
under
She-Hulk, huh? You...
uh, I'm gonna go on the limb and guessing you didn't pick She-Hulk. I may be wrong.
Nah, you got it, man.
Okay. But I understand, like Chuck mentioned, we're not the demographic for She-Hulk, so it's not made for us at all. But I just felt just as a show, as a piece of media, by the end, I felt nothing significantly really happened in the show. It just felt like a giant skit at the end of it. And then the one promising story that they were building throughout the season, at the end, they just scrapped it and erased it to get this unique, I'm going to surprise you ending that they did. So it was just like the one little piece of coherent story that you're telling, you're just going to be like, nah, erase that. And that's what made this one my least favorite series out of all of them. Um, but that being said, George, what was your non She-Hulk
Uh,
least favorite?
well, first, I wanna play devil's advocate here to the fact that I know you guys said that this you guys weren't the target audience for this, and I feel like a lot of comic book readers kind of felt the same way. But this show, like I was saying before, it actually leaned into the comic book essence quite a bit. So like you didn't like the twerking, but like there's a scene in one of the comic books, like I think from Sensational She-Hulk back in the 80s, where she's literally jump roping naked for the audience. Like she's
I would have
talking,
been okay with that.
but that's the equivalence of it. You know what I mean? Like she's actually talking to the audience. Is like, really, is this what you have me doing? You have me jump roping for my readers naked. And like the writer's like, yep, that's what we're doing. You like that's pretty much like what's happening. And so it's like they're kind of staying almost true to the character to some sense, you know. And I got this feeling, it's like, wow, there really is no pleasing us, huh? They give us comic book accuracy, we're upset. They change it and make it unique, we're upset. Are we the reason there's no success here? But my pick of this actually was Ms. Marvel. I think I may have been one of the few who actually watched the whole thing.
I watched the whole
You
thing.
watched the whole thing too? Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, like there was cute moments. I actually kind of liked the first episode because it felt different from everything else. I like that there was a lot of art being used to like transition through things, and we're like seeing the world through her eyes. You know, she kind of feels like she has like ADHD at times. And, you know, and I thought that was kind of cool and unique. But then they dropped that, and with every episode, it just felt like they were losing who they were and what they were trying to do, you know. And there's a lot of choices that were made where it's like it felt like they were forgetting the characters they were writing. So to give a good example, like the mom specifically is so hard pressed on her to do and not do certain things. So like the idea of her being a hero, that's obviously off the table. She doesn't want this girl going to a convention with her friend. Why would she want her to be a superhero putting her life on the line? And then at the end of the show, she gives her a superhero costume. And one can say like, oh, well, you know, the mother grew as a person and all this stuff. It's like what in a what less than a month, she all of a sudden just like, yeah, I'm okay with my daughter putting her life on the line. She's not even graduated high school yet. She can go do the superhero thing. She's got this. It's like, no, she's still your kid. Like that's not going to
Peter,
change. That's
Peter
not
was
that quick.
right. Peter
Peter
was
was,
right.
yeah. George was right too, wasn't he? Not Chuck.
No, he hung out with them for like 10 minutes.
Did you hold on? I want. Did you guys, just so people know what we're talking about? Did you guys see that clip that I sent of the Spider-Man 2 thing that Chuck brought up in our last
Yeah.
episode?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was with you.
I know you were. I know you were.
Yeah.
But did Chuck watch it?
No,
No, because you didn't
because
want to
I
believe.
believe what I believe.
I
That's
hope
why.
our audience watched it because I put it in our comments. I was right the whole time. You don't question the guy who's the Spider-Man fan. I was wearing all the Spider-Man stuff that day.
So what was I wrong about?
You said that he didn't know he was Peter Parker.
No, I never said that. Oh, maybe I did.
Jose?
Yeah.
That
Okay,
was the argument.
so when he said that line, he already knew he was Peter Parker.
Yeah, because
he
Peter,
found out before he died.
yeah, they just had a big fight, and Peter takes off his mask, and he's like, "Oh, Peter," and now he's trying to explain to him, "It's like, dude, we got to stop this." And he's like, "Oh, you're right," and that's the
No,
exact line. You're right. Not Peter was right, but you're right. I think you got to watch it again.
but
But in any case, Jose,
yeah.
what's your next query for us?
Well, back with the kind of touching on the Miss Marvel. I see everything you were saying. I agree with a lot of it. I think one of the things that kind of elevated a little bit for me over She-Hulk is, and I may be completely wrong because this is not my culture, but at least as an audience, it seemed to me like they were trying to be respectful and really show the culture and kind of put some emphasis on that. And I do enjoy that when movies or TV shows do that, where they're like, okay, these characters, they're from a different culture. Let's show a little bit about that culture and how they interact and all of that stuff. I can't directly speak to it because it's not my culture, but at least from the outside, it looked like they were trying to spend some time to be respectful of the culture. So I
Well,
think that I appreciated.
I'm glad you brought that up because as someone who looks like them, so I actually I appreciated that stuff too. And I actually thought the strongest parts of the show were the family dynamics and their culture. I think the mistake here was actually trying to make it a Ms. Marvel show. I think if they just, it's on Disney Plus, make a full on just like Middle Eastern show, you know, and I think it would have freaking sold. I think it totally would have worked. That if anything, all the other stuff got in the way. and they didn't have the ability to tell a good superhero story for some reason.
Yeah, no, it did seem like they got to the point where they were like, where are we going with it? Let's just get it over with.
Yeah.
Maybe this one should have had her coming through the screen and kind of changing to something else. So,
Yeah.
with that being said, now we've watched most of these. Well, we've watched all these series. Chuck, you've seen most of them overall. Out of these, which ones do you think should get, or which one do you think should get a season two, and you would be looking forward to a season two, and which one should be left as is, ending in season one? All right, we'll start with you on this one, George.
Uh, season two, definitely without a shadow of a doubt. What if? Just because there's endless possibilities for what you can do with that. You're dealing with the multiverse, and I always like the idea of what if, just because you can tackle. How many times when we watch a movie or read something and we're like, oh man, what if this happened? And we'll always have those conversations, those debates. This is that story. This is that chance. And it's that opportunity for them to really actually try those different things they want to do. You want to have your different race or cultural person take on this character that you usually know. Boom, do it there. You want to have them go through a struggle you don't usually see them go through. This is your opportunity. And I've always loved that aspect. I'm also always impressed with how they're able to actually weave all those stories together to make one grander tale. I thought that was spectacular. If they can do that again in some facet, I think that'd be great. If they don't, I'm cool with that too. Shows that I think that don't need a second series. We've been talking
Yeah,
about it a lot. WandaVision. WandaVision doesn't need a second series. At this point, just keep on doing her in the movies, and then that's it. Because I don't see how you can capture that surprise and intrigue again in a season two. You know what I mean? Season one, we didn't know where it was going. Every episode was a question, and so I don't see season two bringing that back again, and nor would you want to really. You know?
yeah. Well, I see that you were looking at my notes. In general, because the series that I would want, and they should, and I'll be excited for season two, would be What If. In the comics, whether it's Marvel's What If or it's DC's Elseworlds, I really enjoy seeing those storylines and seeing some of these characters in a different perspective and things that are out of where you're not strapped by continuity, where you have to fit it in this box. I feel you get some of the most creative. I know with DC itself, some of their Elseworld stories are some of the best DC stories that
Yeah.
they are, because they're not constraints. So I'm all for give me more what ifs, because the options are limitless or where you can go with it. And then the show I feel should be left the way it is. It is WandaVision, because between that series and what we got in Doctor Strange, she's at the point right now that if there's going to be something new with her, it needs to just be a movie. Like, give her own movie. If the character does come back, we don't need another series. They did a good job with the series in Doctor Strange to establish her to that point already. So save the series for these other characters that we need to build up. So that was my thoughts on that. What about you, Chuck?
Mine, and this isn't for the good of the world, it's just for me. Uh, I want to see more Moon Knight, and when I say I want to see more Moon Knight, it means I want to see more Moon Knight. If you needed to do this origin story for him or whatever you want to call it, and when it was an origin, but cool, it's done. Let's put him on the streets now. Let's put him on the streets, taking down some low-level criminals and maybe a high one, just a little bit, and just have him in there kicking some ass, dude, and showing off his awesome suit and give me some blood. Like, that's what I want, and some more Oscar Isaac. Yeah, great. Give me more Moon Knight. I want to see season two.
Yeah, let us see
Yeah.
him kicking ass. Don't just tell us afterwards that he just kicked ass.
Yeah. Ugh, God. And then leave it alone. It's done. Again, not for the good of the world, just for me. Duh, She-Hulk. You know what? If you're like, and it's because of my biggest problem, like the stuff that George was saying, like, she breaks the third wall, fourth wall, fifth wall,
Four.
fourth wall. That's cool. Do it. You want to have her twerk? Go for it. just I need better CGI. I need it to look better. So let's just throw her in a freaking movie now where we got the budget. We can make her look more legit. Like, I'm cool with that. Like, I'm done with the show. I'm done with the low budget. I'm done with the corny, the cheesy. Like, throw her in there with some serious characters and have her do her thing. Like, that's gonna work for me. So
I think this is at the point right now. What's everyone's overall thoughts on Phase 4? Do you feel the TV shows were a success? Was it a failure? Was it a mixed bag? What is everyone's overall thoughts on this? And we'll start with you on this one, Chuck.
overall, disappointed. Overall, there were some good shows in there. I liked WandaVision. I, I'm going against the grain here. I didn't really care for Loki. I thought it was boring. I was bored. The last episode and two were cool, but other than that, I was bored. I loved Falcon. Hawkeye was cool. It's a little corny and cheesy here and there, but I liked it. But I didn't bother with She-Hulk other than like the Daredevil episode and the first one and the twerking. I didn't bother with Miss Marvel. What If was there were some good ones episodes in there, and then there were some that were not. Like there was like a Thor episode that was really bad. I didn't walk away. Oh, WandaVision, I loved it. Loved WandaVision until the end. Until they just did the whole Ralph Boner or whatever it was. And it wasn't
That was
Quicksilver.
pretty bad.
It wasn't that. That was awful. That was so bad. And I loved everything that came up to it until then. And I was like, really? Like, and it was like a joke. Like it was a joke. Like they tricked us. Is that what they did? I don't
Yeah.
know, right? Like,
Yeah.
why? Why? Like I was so annoyed. I'm still mad, because that show was so good. And I'm like, oh my God, they got Evan Peters. They got Quicksilver from Fox. Like, oh my God, multiverse. Great, awesome, amazing. Nah, just kidding. For a boner joke.
Yeah.
Really? Really? You know
That
what?
was the
WandaVision's on my list for worst now. There you go. She-Hulk is number one. WandaVision is last.
It's like that's it. It's time.
Enough
of
that
this.
that was the TV series version of clickbait. It's pretty much what
Yes.
that was.
Yes, it was
Yeah.
and they
Quicksilver.
had us. They had it right there. And even in WandaVision, and they I feel like they really teased us, and just like a dry hump is what I feel like it was, and then they're like they're driving to like the military camp. They're like, oh, we're gonna meet my secret friend. He's gonna help us with everything. And I'm like, Mr. Fantastic. Did they even meet anybody? It wasn't a guy. They met a girl there. Like they specifically said, this guy's gonna help us. And I'm like, who's it gonna? Is it Professor X? And maybe that's my fault. But still, they know what they're doing. They're writing, they're filming. It takes effort, and there's a reason and a purpose for everything you put in, because you got to film it and do all this and edit it. Like they know, and so frustrating. WandaVision done. Hate it.
How quickly it turns.
I think I'm just getting hungry. I don't know.
Yeah.
Get
What
some
about you,
Snickers.
George?
I will say, to tack on to some of what you're saying there, I think that the biggest downfall probably of the series themselves is that the writers and creative team for some reason thought it was a good idea to troll the fans, which is a mistake. If there's something you can learn from DC before they got rid of the Snyderverse, is that when you please the fans, they do take care of you. They watch your stuff, they give you good critiques. Don't bite the hand that feeds. I think it's something that you learn when you do like stand-up comedy. You want to entertain your fans, you want to take care of them, because once you stop doing that, they don't go to your shows anymore. They stop laughing at your jokes. And you can't treat this craft like stand-up, in that sense where like the audience can be in on the joke with you, because they know that you're nudging them along, and like, you get it, right? Ha ha ha. We're making fun. It's at your expense, but we're all in it together. In a TV show and a movie, you can't do that. We're not trained to watch it that way. I think that was their biggest flaw with like She-Hulk and the parts of WandaVision, like the boner joke, that definitely fell on deaf ears. I think that's the biggest problem. But I'll say for me, yes, there were some downfalls to this, but I actually like that they took chances. I feel like this has been the most creative chances they've taken, as opposed to the movies where it's kind of like cookie cutter. It's the same, pattern every single time. I like that they did different things here. I wish they all were successfully different things, but I gotta give credit, for taking that chance at least. And hopefully they keep on taking that chance in the next seasons or in the newer series that are to come.
You know what? I took a chance on this girl once who just got out of prison, and she said that it wasn't supposed to be armed robbery. And you know what? I took a chance. And you know what? She beat my ass and she took my car. I mean, I got it back, but I took a chance, George, and it didn't work out. I should have just stuck with the nice, pretty girl who was next door and very cookie cutter. That would have worked out better, dude.
Yeah, sometimes mediocre works.
Mediocre does not work. Mediocre does not work. Mediocre
That's
is
the girl next
bad.
door is. The girl next door is mediocre.
Yeah, but she didn't beat
She's
my
not
ass
a
and steal my
10.
car.
She's not a 10 and she's not a felon.
Oh,
Uh,
uh, I I think for me, I feel the shows were overall stronger than the movies were on Phase 4. There was some good stuff there. There was some clunkers, but there was some good stuff. I feel they did a good job of helping develop characters such as Falcon and Wanda. They gave us Kate Bishop and kind of introduced her and built her up for her future, projects going forward. So they did a good job of that aspect. I think one of my main problems with the TV shows, and it's a double-edged sword. I like it and I don't like it. Is the connectivity of it all. Um, it's more work when it's a series than when it's a movie. So when the series, which you have to watch all of them, so you are in tune with everything happening in the MCU, and you don't miss out on something that appears in the movies later. But it's a different commitment watching 8, 10 episode series and it sucks or it's not good just to get some information that you might find in the movies rather than watching a bad hour and a half movie that gives you that information. But whatever, you only wasted an hour and a half. You didn't waste 10 hours watching it. So that's the problem I have with TV series, that when it doesn't hit and it isn't good or entertaining for me, you're wasting more time than you are with a movie. And it almost feels like work. I'm not watching this because I'm entertained, because I want to. I'm watching it because I don't want to not know when these movies come out and it's all connected. That's my biggest problem with the series, like overall. I mean, do you guys feel that way, that some of it might have felt like work for you as a fan?
I was actually going to ask you this after we were wrapping up some of these questions. I was going to ask you guys, in comparison to the movies, it's like, do you see yourself rewatching this for, like, because I'm pretty sure you've all done this, the marathon. There's a big one coming out, like Avengers is coming out, got to marathon them all so I can just watch it all together and then get ready for that big one. I don't see myself marathoning any of these TV shows when it comes to the next big event.
No, probably the closest one is I might do Loki before season 2 comes in, just kind of as a refresher. But that's probably the closest one I think that I can see myself like redoing again.
Yeah, but like when the next Avengers film comes out, with Kang Dynasty, I think, or is it or Secret Wars first? I think it's Kang Dynasty. So when Kang Dynasty comes out, what would you rewatch before that? Most likely just the movies,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, although, with Ant-Man coming out with Kang, I actually rewatched the final episode of Loki. Even though I
Yeah,
didn't like that season, I watched because I wanted to see Kang. I
yeah.
wanted to see because I didn't remember what happened to him. And they actually killed him, which I didn't remember.
Yeah.
So I rewatched that recently, but just that episode. I couldn't watch any of these shows over again. If I had to, if I absolutely had to, probably Falcon and Winter Soldier. That's about it.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess on that aspect, it wasn't as successful as they probably thought it was going to be,
Yeah.
but it wasn't a complete failure
Mm.
either overall. We'll
Yeah, it
see
was.
how the next phase. I think they're gonna, at least from what I've read, it looks like they're gonna kind of cool it down with the
Yeah.
projects and try to go more quality over quantity going forward. So we probably won't have 8 TV shows that are part of Phase 5. Maybe it'll be more like 4 or 5. So maybe some of these problems, such as the CGI or the rush storylines or the incomplete storylines, might get fixed with a bigger focus on just a small amount of projects and bigger budget on a small amount of projects. But I mean, with that being said, just like we did with the movies, we actually had the members of NASS and Dan, who's not in this episode, but he also gave his input, and we all rated and ranked the Phase 4 TV shows, our personal rankings, and then I kind of put it together into an overall NASS ranking, which only I know what the final results were. And I'm not gonna tell you guys. So I'll see you next up. No, I'm kidding.
Ooh.
Son of a by the power of Moon Knight.
So starting from the bottom, the last one, which might be a big surprise to those listening to this episode, is She-Hulk. With an average rating, a NASS rating of 4.6 out of this. Then we have Miss Marvel after that with an average rating of 5.8.
We don't hate women, by the way. Just want you guys to know.
Well, I didn't think that beforehand. Now I'm wondering.
Then we have Moon Knight with an average rating of 6.
Hurts.
On this.
Hurts.
Such a disappointment. I'm sorry, you don't deserve that, Oscar.
No.
Then we have Hawkeye coming in with an average rating of 7.5. So not a terrible rating itself, but bottom half of the rankings. Then we have Falcon and Winter Soldier with an average rating of 7.75. Then we had at number 3, Loki with an average rating of 8.25. So Loki did good for itself.
Okay.
Then number 2, What If, with an average rating of 8.33. And to prove that we don't hate women, at number 1, WandaVision. WandaVision with an average ranking of 8.3. So there's actually no 9s in this at all. The highest is Wanda and is barely over an 8. So it says a lot about the Phase 4 as an overall. It seems like our followers too, we also ran a poll and we did a face-off between all of the Phase 4 TV shows, and we had people voting on Instagram and on Twitter to kind of get our follower champion. And they are in agreement with us with the champion of our followers being WandaVision, coming in at number 1. And at the end, actually, it ended up being pretty close matchup between WandaVision and Hawkeye, were the final 2 in there. And the disparity was not as high as I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
So that was a surprise. Yeah.
We got smart fans. Can I just say that? You guys are brilliant.
I agree. Now, you guys, if you have a different ranking of your own, if you have something else you think should have won, definitely feel free to put it in the comments below. Let us know your thoughts. You don't have to agree with us, but if you don't agree with us, then you're wrong. But
apparently
leave your comments below.
So.
Yeah, let us know your thoughts. Who's your standout performance? What was your favorite series? What was your least favorite series? Let us know. We definitely want to hear your opinion overall. Make sure you tune in to our last episode that we had with Phase 4 movies. If you haven't seen that one, this one covers the TV shows. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. It's that little bell icon that you see below. That will let you know other times that we drop these bonus episodes, because these can come at any random time, whenever it is we feel like it. So you make sure that you are informed. With that, I am your host for this episode, Jose. You can find me at This Is Mi Nombre at Instagram.
30 Nights of Chuck, apparently still, and you can find me at Chad Radwell 12.
And I'm just George, because I forgot to do stuff today. I pulled a Chuck. But you can follow me, Nicolopolis.
Make sure to continue to tune in as we go into Phase 5, and let's see what Phase 5s give us.